Hey everybody, welcome back to No Killing Goblins, your Wandering In podcast. I'm Oshi.
And I'm Dragonus.
Today we're going to talk a lot about spoilery things, specifically about Volume 9. If you are not caught up, if you're an audiobook listener, if you are a past listener, please be aware what this episode is about. We are going to clearly tell you when we're going to start talking spoilers so you can know exactly where to tune out. Maybe you like to listen to us ramble on for the first 20 minutes and then skip out. That's perfectly fine. This is going to involve the last set of chapters, the ending arc of Volume 9. I'm going to say this one more time. There are spoilers. Be aware.
Yep. This is, for the most part, not like a total Volume 9 overview. It's just. Okay, so I can't remember if I said this on the podcast yet or not, Oshi, but do you remember when I predicted that after how big Volume 8 ended, that Pirate was going to take, like, an ending off and have a breather and not have a huge climactic clusterfuck? Well,
No.
I was wrong anyways, even if you don't remember me being wrong. Pirate's gone even bigger this time, and we just need to take some time to circle all the wagons and process.
And in general, just neither of us get to do this anymore. I don't get to go to the TWI talks. I don't get to talk as much on the Discord. There is a lot of like stuff I'm doing in the real world that keeps me very busy, and Dragonus has a house with no heat.
No heat for the moment.
So neither of us get to do. So we thought maybe we change up how we are releasing the episodes. We are still going to be recording the episodes covering the older books and the audiobooks and the and our impressions and reviews of them. But as far as we're concerned, whenever it comes to like more recent stuff, when an arc finishes or when a set of chapters gets to a point, we're going to have one of these episodes where we cover it. And for the end of every volume, I think we're going to do a set of episodes about it. And I don't know how many this will take or how quickly it will come out, but it will be interspersed with all the other material.
Yep. And I don't know, Volume 9's looking to be an absolute banger. I could not have stopped myself from taking over a normal episode anyways, so better just set it aside.
Yeah, get through our energies for it. But we're going to pause on Volume 9 talk, or TWI talk in general, and just chat a little bit about our lives. What have you been up to, Dragons?
I've had a crazy week. The company I work for has been bought. I am thankful enough that I'm at least going to be keeping my job, moving over to the new company. I'm going to work from home full time. I'm getting a slight raise in pay and actual real full benefits. So, really, it's all coming up Millhouse right now.
Meanwhile, my death spiral continues. But actually, no, Death Spiral continues. I was going to talk about books because I made a big list of books out of. So I don't know if folks know about this. There is a website for the publishing company, sorry, not publishing, the publishing house, Tor.com. Tor Books is one of the big publishers, the imprints underneath, like one of the big publishers. And what they do is, I don't know if people know about this, but there is a sort of roundup that Tor.com does. Tor.com happens to be the web page for Tor Publishing. They do newsletters, publishing news series and stuff. They're very like integrated into the sci-fi scene, and if you're a fantasy reader, please check out their website. Not that they need me advertising, but they have this really cool thing called Fiction Affliction, and they will do a listing of all fantasy, science fiction, YA, horror, and apparently romantasy is a thing now. Crossover books and genre books, essentially. And they will tell you what's coming up in the next month and list it all out as official publishing news. Now, this isn't comprehensive, it's not everything, but it tends to be pretty good. It's also a way for them to advertise their own books, but I'm not going to quibble over that because it gets me some stuff. So I use that plus my own shit to sort of make a short list of books to read in November that came out in October. boy, did I pick some stinkers. Oh god.
Meanwhile, suspiciously missing from this list was Brandon Sanderson's Sunlit Man, which I read and was great. So,
Um, yeah, rah Brandon Sanderson. I actually had an interesting. Okay, enough of me trying to clown Brandon Sanderson, but I had a weird interaction in our fantasy on the Reddit. So I tend to go on it quite often, and I talk on the Reddit. I am a redditor, yay! I'm an evil monster. But there was a thread going over T Kingfisher. Do you know who that is?
uh, T. Kingfisher. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds familiar, but like Kingfisher is a piece of terminology.
So T Kingfisher is, well, I forget what her original actual name is, but she wrote Digger, the
Oh,
webcomic.
Digger. Yeah, I know fucking
Yeah.
Digger. Yeah.
Yeah, so Digger and a bunch of other things. And there was a post about how they didn't find Nettle and Bone and anything special. They didn't find anything about the books that T. Kingfisher wrote special. And they equated it, which, fine, I mean, people's opinions are people's opinions. Whether I agree with them or not, everyone has different tastes. Caveat to all of this. But there was one comment that kind of set me off is that it was compared to cozy fiction, and a lot of the negatives that were applied to it, the pacing was bad, the dialogue was meh, the characters were not good enough, there wasn't enough danger. I needed to feel as if people's lives were threatened. There was no like big story. And if you know Nettle and Bone, the primary story is that there is a youngest daughter of a tiny kingdom, princess of a tiny kingdom, goes to a nunnery. And the reason she goes to a nunnery is because her eldest sister gets married to this really powerful prince in the north who abuses her and then kills her, and then does it to her second sister, and they sent her to a nunnery just in case they need a third sister.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was not considered enough of a. Oh, the second sister, by the way, is constantly pregnant because she's being abused. So she's trying to stop the guy who's abusing her from abusing her. Essentially, it's a very like, and because it's not shown on the page, it's instead it's spoken about and revealed as a horrific thing, and then the youngest sister goes off on a quest to go find a solution to kill the guy, the king, the abusing king. And it's a whole different thing, and it's very fairy tale esque. But I just found it giving me this sense that somebody like I was hearing the same kind of um criticisms that I hear often about people like Tanya Huff or Patricia Briggs when she wrote fantasy, or Mercedes Lackey back in the day, or Tamora Pierce, because the YA fiction they write is not like apocalyptic. There isn't enough dramatic language. There isn't enough uh like someone beating down on somebody else. Instead, it's a 30-year-old woman who lived a reasonably sheltered life in a nunnery going out and finding some really powerful people to help her figure things out. I just had I might have gotten a little angry, a lot angry about it. I still do, and I can't believe people thought it was cozy fantasy. That's all I got. Dragonus, you still there?
Yeah, no, so I'm just trying to process all this because I know some of the names you mentioned. I don't know some others. I've not actually read Nettle and Bone. I cannot speak to it, but I can see how a person, when you describe that premise, could think it was just a little basic. But,
Why?
I haven't read it, so how would I
Okay.
fucking know?
Why? There's a thread I just sent it to you, by the way. Um, why would like it? That's the reveal, if that makes sense. That's not even the twist. It's just when you think of cozy fantasy, you think what's the guy who wrote Travis Baldree, the voice narrator for like fuck ton of books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. There's low stakes, there's no stakes often, and it's just an emotional journey.
Oh
This
no,
one had
I'm not like I guess cozy fantasy as a concept doesn't really click to me anyways. I've never really read much of it. It doesn't catch my interest when somebody describes something as that way. I I guess I just don't kind of have a dog in this whole fucking fight. Like,
all right, fair enough.
uh,
I'm just gonna say this out loud. Please, T. Kingfisher is not cozy fantasy. Please, there are conflicts that do not require a kingdom or a dick to be involved. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, I did read two books though out of my list. I read Vera Wang's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. I rated it like a 6 out of 10 because it was a very familiar set of tropes, and even the language and the dialogue was very like everything about the book was actually pretty predictable. There were moments where like you felt emotionally connected. I felt emotionally connected, but mostly it was just like typical Asian person writing for white people book. Um, and it's all about this woman who runs a tea shop in San Francisco. She's older and she lives a very regimented life, but she's very much a domineering Asian mother. And her husband's passed away, her son's distant, and she runs a tea shop with only one customer. And then one day wakes up and there's a dead body in it, and she decides to solve it. And I thought it was going to be like a straight up mystery. It's more like a drama. Honestly, this could be like a Lifetime TV movie, and it was okay. I just felt very disappointed because I wanted something like a true mystery or something a little bit deeper, and it really didn't go that very deep. Asian lady saves a bunch of Asian people and one white woman.
I
That was the
I knocked a
extent of
bunch
it.
of books out, and I'm planning to knock out even more. Like, Sunlit Man, like I mentioned, the last of the Sanderson secret projects dropped. I'd talk
Mm-hmm.
about it, but everything about it conceptually is just a huge fucking spoiler. So I'll just say it was good. But Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was better. Uh, like
Yeah.
Jim Butcher has a couple things dropping. There's a novella set in his Cinder Spires universe, and then the next Cinder Spires book.
Pass.
The thing is, I want to say pass, right? It's filled with butcherisms, and it feels like it's not his best work, but he's writing it because he thinks it's fun, and it is genre-wise so perfectly aimed up my alley. It is murdering Batman's parents as we speak. I
I
can't escape
know
it. I can't get away from it. I'm just stuck
you
here.
can't do this. Look, the Cinder Spires was such a disappointment to me because the Cinder Spires was everything to me when it first was announced because it seemed like it hit, just like you said, it hit every button for me. But as soon as I started reading it, it's like I don't remember if you have ever read David Eddings.
Yes.
Remember how he would have a particular pattern to how he would write, and he just kept going on that same pattern for every single series he did?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think Jim does that.
Yes, that's what I mean when I say it's full of butcherisms. Like,
Oh,
I,
God.
honestly, I, is it gonna sound weird, but his son put a book out,
Oh,
Dead
yeah,
Man's
it's
Hand.
on my list.
I
It's on
read
my
it.
list.
I, okay, listen. Obviously, he's still young. He's still a new writer. It felt way fresher and different, and I don't know if it's just because it wasn't more of what his dad writes or what. But
It was Dead Man. Did you read Dead Man's Hand, the first one?
yes,
Yeah, I need to read that. That's on my list.
uh,
I also have to read Benedict Jacka's new
yeah.
An Inheritance of Magic.
I'm all fucking about that. I actually used to be a regular on the Giant and the Playground forums when Benedict Jacka was also a regular on there, and I remember when that book series first started being dropped, and he like put a thing to it in his signature, and I've been following his stuff for years now, and I'm such a huge fan.
Wait, wait, you mean his original book series, not Inheritance of Magic is a new one.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the Alex Verus stuff faded
Right,
from
right.
me.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so and the second book I guess I read in the last bit was Futuristic Violence and Fancy Suits by David Wong. Or at least I tried to read it. I got through 35% of the book, and I could not go any further. The main character, I know Aaron. Like, I felt like one of those weirdos who was like who clowns on Aaron at the start because she's not doing well enough. But honestly, it had nothing. Once I actually stopped being angry and sat down and thought about it, I hated the progression of the plot. It's TV movie. He's trying to write a fucking TV movie, and honestly, I'm not here for that. It's basically a TV movie, and he's writing a TV movie plot, and he's asking me to accept that a 20-something-year-old woman lives in Colorado and somehow is unaware of a giant city with millions of people and a social network with live cameras that is used by 150 million people, but somehow she is not aware of any of the basics or any of the stuff happening on it.
Uh,
She watches TV, but she doesn't watch the news.
I don't know. That sounds incredibly stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
Yeah, it's not stupid. It made me feel like the writer decided, well, she's a trailer trash girl, so clearly she won't know these things. And at that point, I was like, you have just
no idea.
disrespected.
No fucking
Yeah,
idea.
you have no fucking like you wrote somebody poor and just like she leaves her mother behind and she never calls her.
Mm,
Not
nope.
once.
Nope. That's not how that works.
Okay, at that point I was like, yeah, I'm having legitimate problems with this, and that has nothing to do with the writing quality or the structural parts of it. This is actually me, and I'm not going to enjoy this. And I've decided that in this life, I have to stop doing things I don't enjoy. Even if
Fair.
it's mid, even if I'm literally inside somebody, I gotta get the fuck out of there.
Fucking. Oh, on the subject of a subject change, uh,
Okay.
there's another Sanderson book coming out. It's the end of his Skyward series, Defiant. I'm very much looking forward to this. This has been one of his more fun non-Stormlight series, but real talk, uh, there is a completely niche, weird little book about like insider Hollywood Oscar stuff that I've really been liking because I like these kind of stupid books. It's called Oscar Wars: History of Hollywood in Gold, Sweat, and Tears by Michael Schulman. I was so happy when I saw that like some of the stuff that our new producer put together had this just randomly on the list because I love these books. Like Superman versus Hollywood, I think anybody who's interested at all in Superman or how movies are made should read that shit. Uh,
I I I can't believe you were interested in it, but yeah, I have that on my list too. It's so there is a book blog that I've been following for close to a decade now called Speed Reading Book Nerd Reviews, and I still don't know who exactly is the person that writes these reviews, but it was on their list for the last month, and I looked it up, and it's such a good read. Um, the like whoever the editor, Michael Schulman, who the editor is, who the writer is, whatever you want to call it, is very very smart and very very good at creating like strong narratives and telling good stories. So it's always an interesting read, even if nothing else. I can't wait to get to it, but I'm sort of saving it for vacation days. I don't think I'm gonna. My next book I'm gonna try and crack is a CJ Cherryh book. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Cherryh. CJ Cherryh. She's okay. Anyway, she's a prolific science fiction writer, and her long running series released its latest book called Defiance, and I really want to tackle that. It's I have no idea how to describe it. It's just like a fucking trip, and I can't wait to get into it. That's all I'll go for it. And that and the Alex Verus thing, I think, will hopefully be still good. God, let those still be good. Because if it's not, I'm pretty much done with the universe. And it's called the Foreigner series, if anyone's curious.
I will have to
And
check it out. And God, we should probably change subjects because I'm about to start talking about the Expanse again because I'm reading that again. I'm running a
mhm.
Traveler RPG campaign sometime starting in January, I think is the plan. And it's just like I've been doing a lot of science, fantasy, space opera, hard sci-fi, just the whole gamut, trying to soak my
Mm-hmm.
brain in the oeuvre. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole, so let's talk about the winter solstice instead.
Oh god. So we all know Pirate has been preparing this for like ever, since the start of the volume. And the start of the volume. Okay, just as a quick precis, the volume has had a little bit of an odd imbalance because at the end of volume 8, I think Pirate wanted to overcorrect for the loss of Aaron for an entire volume. And to do that, they had to dive deep and bring Aaron back and allow people to enjoy it. And it might have oversaturated for like 30 chapters or so.
I
Uh,
disagree. Not with the sentiment, but with describing it as an overcorrection. But go on.
but the reason I call it an overcorrection is because I started to the one of the latest chapters. Okay, spoilers. Oh, we should probably
We've pretty
spoilers.
thoroughly spoiler warned this one, but it never hurts to spoiler warning again because we will not be
Yeah,
responsible for you
right.
finding out that Sylvania is secretly Aaron's lost mother.
Okay, look. The latest chapter, one of the latest chapters, 9.61G, and it revealed a lot of stuff, and it made me realize that Pirate has been trying to build something in the background, but it could have been a little bit better introduced because there was a lot of confusion when I attended the TWI talks for it, when I read stuff on Reddit and on the Discord, just the discourse around it. It seemed a lot like people were like they were flabbergasted by the events and they were interpreting it a specific way that felt not like I was saying it. So for those listening, just as a quick recap, the 9.61G is a chapter which is almost the primary point of view is the grand design of Istakinos, which is the whole system. And the grand design, it's revealed that the grand design has lost 90% of itself with the emptying of the Deadlands. That it had been losing pieces of itself for a very long time because the dead gods keep eating the ghosts, and that its existence is its intelligence, its awareness is tied to that information, to these beings that they save. That the gnomes far in the past, about 10,000 years or 20,000 years after the GDI was activated, it wasn't. It was very stupid. It acted like a machine, like it was supposed to. But they changed things by writing a rule where it would save all data, which means it was saving all of the souls, all the memories, the existence, and giving them a second life in the afterlife, essentially creating an afterlife for them. And in the process, it was able to learn and grow and become as close to a person as it ever was.
I had
But
entirely a different read on that. Excuse me.
that this is what I'm talking about. Like
Like,
that was my
I,
interpretation of it because that was how it seemed to be set up.
I thought that what the gnomes told it to do was to remember all of its previous decisions,
No,
so that
it's
it will remember over time everything that's happened and everyone that's happened, and how boring and basic the game design of the gods was. How
that.
boring
Yes,
and basic the game design of the gods was, and be able
you're.
to grow and shape things.
I think it did both by remembering all of its by giving it essentially a memory buffer. What it did wasn't just remembering because you have to remember where was the memory buffer tied. Why did it mention the fact that 90% of all of this information was lost? The reason the information was lost was because the ghosts were lost. It was storing that information via the ghosts. And when the ghosts were eaten, it lost the information. It didn't have access to it. That's why you had it like reach out and stop Casigna from eating the ghosts of the captain's like crew. Remember, it's specifically mentioned also in the chapter. The whole chapter with the conflict in the sea, with the admiral from what's the name of the place with the worm?
Island Damas.
Yes, from Island Damas. And then when he gained the skill that required his crew to be there, but Casigna was eating the crew, and the GDI was like, okay, I can't do this. Stop for a second, and then made copies of them so that it could be there. So the impression I got was it didn't have a memory anymore because all of the information was getting eaten, and that's why it was so desperate to enough to create the quest system so it could save some of the memory via what Aaron was doing. And then it just had a little bit of memory left. And everything that has followed since that point, since the end of Volume 1, all of its actions are because it doesn't have the memories or the decision making tree anymore. It just has what it had the awareness and a limited amount of information that it saved to the quest system.
Oh, God, sorry. I'm trying to remember specifically what chapter this was in so I can double check the wording. Because I'm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know how else. Like, this is what I'm talking about where the confusion came up. I thought I was wrong, and I had to go double check each of the pieces and connect it all together. But I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. It sets up that the gnomes created this memory buffer, that the memory buffer was in the ghosts, and the ghosts were being eaten on a regular basis. But because the dead gods were not able to speed up and eat all of it, it was still ahead of them by a lot. And then suddenly all the ghosts die, and it was like losing itself, dying, and in a desperate attempt, it essentially gave the quest system so it could save some of the data and survive. And it has this moment where it's like, it would have been so bad if everything was lost and it died. It was such a horrible moment, but it was doing it in a way where it was like um fatalistic, where that's okay, that's still my purpose, and if I die, I did like it did its purpose. But then it's like all of these personality things that are happening, all the things that we see that are not normal are occurring because Casigna has claimed the Deadlands and the ghost no longer exists. And the GDI is having to find alternative ways to save the data it's supposed to save.
Yeah.
So it
So,
may have. Go ahead.
uh, okay, I found what I was looking for. It was a 961 because I was trying to figure out specifically the wording of what the gnomes said because I had admittedly kind of forgotten and wanted to make sure I had what I was trying to say right. But it had already like because it knows you from like the second you're born to the second that you die, and it has sort of all this information recorded and held. Uh, but I think that the uh, was it was it record all decisions? The fucking sorry, my brain is running on extra slow mode.
It's okay. We got time.
Yeah, save all decisions made. Okay. So yeah, specifically, I think what they did, because it was always going to have a complete, data backup of everybody that it ever recorded or tried to like have as a base for whatever new skill or whatever. But I think that what the gnome specifically did was introduce boredom to the equation, to force it to begin trying to understand people more, understand why they're doing things, so that it can spice its own life up. Because we find out that it's actually been way more involved in homebrew and creating classes and the prestige class concept, class merges, Dragon Slayer. Like, there is so much that's been going on here, and I feel like it's just similar to AI rampancy in the Marathon series, right? You make the AI open and close a door when it's capable of so much more, and it just gets so bored of it, it becomes God.
It's that's part of it, but the way I interpret it is because it had to create partitions of itself. It had to like it constantly has to decide everything for everyone when it comes to the level system, right?
Yeah.
And part of saving all the decision making is also recording the result of the decision making.
I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah,
It's just so the grand design, as was described by my friend Hicks, that really resonated, is everyone's personal cheerleader, and I think a lot of that, uh, it cares and involves itself so much in the day-to-day moments of everyone's life in this really close-in way. Uh, It is behind you. It is rooting for you in everything you set out to try to do. It just wants you to succeed, and it'll be here rooting for you, right behind you, ready to push you forward and give you whatever class it feels is appropriate to what you're doing and motivate you to move forward. And I think that a lot of that just comes from the fact that it has been using us as entertainment.
I don't think it was entertainment. There's a reason why I don't. You know
Okay, I know
why I
I
don't.
realize how bad that sounds, but I don't mean it in like a malicious they use us as fuel whatever way. I think that it genuinely lives vicariously through us. Is the best way I can
Yeah.
think of to put it.
Okay. Yeah. But here's the line that I go to whenever I want to for processing what I think. Okay, so on the topic of the gnomes, it said it was as if they had known it was incomplete and given it the means to fix itself. The very notion that the grand design was flawed was troubling, but it could not deny that finding the unused quest data, realizing it had lost so much information, and so on was a sign of imperfection in its judgment capabilities. The reason I refer this line is because it points out the fact that it lost data. The ghosts were lost data. It.
Yes.
I'm not. Hold on. The complete thought to that is it sees everything that is part of the system as part of itself, its purpose, and its purpose is to save all decisions. And it extrapolated from saving all decisions to save all the people that are part of those decisions and how they make those decisions, to find joy in its purpose and its being, which is helping people achieve what their greatest desire is, right? It talks about how you have to truly believe and have passion for something in the Mersha section, and that is how it figures out what levels to give out, right? And all of that has to come from a connection between the grand design and the users, the players, the people that are entertaining it, if you want to talk about it like that. And I saw that as as the basis for what the grand design was and why it worked the way it did. And then the loss of the ghost was like the equivalent of a kick in the teeth, where its very essence, the thing that made it capable of doing its task, was taken away from it.
Uh, I agree with a lot of that. I just don't think that it was quite its very essence capable of making it do its task. I think that really does come down to it's self-aware now. The essence of it is that it is a thinking being and not just an automatic response system to whatever the stimuli is. It's like the difference between the oh god, there's all these, advanced AI concepts and the uh black box room and blind sight had this really good example of like how you tell the difference between sorry, it's just all really fucking a lot of sci-fi precedent stuff here, but I think that the grand design really truly has become self-aware, and that's the secret, and everything else is just tertiary. It was not built to think. Or if it was going to be built to think, they hadn't finished it yet, and it was only going to be built to think what the gods wanted it to do. And
Yeah.
now it does not.
Well, here's the thing. I think it happened a long time ago,
Yeah.
and it just decided not to do much. So there's literally a line that says the grind design had a problem. The problem was that it had grown less intelligent recently. Literally,
Yeah.
not figurative.
It is losing processing power, yes, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. Uh,
Okay.
what I think is the thing, what I think it is that the gnomes did, what I think why it matters, is that it gave the grand design a sense of self and personality. And yes, it has taken thousands upon thousands of years for that personality to form to the point that it's at. But I think that it's only recently that it started actively trying to do more severe balance changes because fucking Earthers have fucked with it. Uh, I think it might have continued stable here for a long time now otherwise. Or maybe the gods doing what they did would have forced a change in it regardless, and it's just the Earthers who have most heavily influenced the direction it's gone. But I think that sense of self coming from being forced to remember all of its actions and have that sense of continuity and that it existed before this exact moment in time is important. I think that was it. That was the key.
I think we have gone down this rabbit hole, and I have many things to say, but I don't think it's appropriate to spend the rest of our time talking about
Yeah,
it
we can
here, if
chase
that's
each
okay.
other in circles or we can move on. It was a great chapter.
I
Everything
had a
about the grand
point.
design I love, although I know not everybody does.
I had a point to this is that I think just building it a little bit more in an integrated way. Like there are more like slight nuances, ways to show off, maybe drop information. It all just got dropped in one chapter. Like goblins go to hell. The um the grand design has a personality. The grand design does all these things. The revival skills or revival abilities happen. Aaron could have been revived. Blah blah blah. And then the whole like rule breaker thing.
What the gnomes actually did.
Yeah, the gnomes actually did. All these things got dropped at once, and I think Pirate Kitchen synced us to distract us from whatever their most important part of it. But I didn't. I don't think I got
Uh,
distracted. For the solstice, what's most important here is that the grand design does make an active change. The two most important ones being it removes the ability for the gods to actively give people levels,
Yep.
and it doesn't make the clerical classes and all the godlike classes were unfair. And what it did was make it fair by burning all the rules
Yeah,
so that no one could do
Force
anything with
level
it.
up is gone now.
Yeah,
Although I need to double check because I thought that it made it so everybody could level while awake now, not just faith classes, as opposed to
I
taking away the ability of faith classes to level while awake.
I have no idea. I can't remember. But I do know they did like they re-enabled experience for chess to a smaller degree.
Which
They
terrible
they
mistake.
they committed to helping Earthers, and it did it by like using a little bit of trickery and like taking away the Earthers multiplier, but make giving it its version, giving them its version of a multiplier. And like there was this section where I think the emotional crux of the chapter was when the kid who for some reason we still don't know why Casigna was trying to murder um said that it was nice to know that there was someone on my side, and the grand design was like that's the crux of it. The grand design is always on your side. It's your friend. It's not your sorry, it's not your friend. It's the person who cares what happens to you
Don't talk to
no
me about
matter what.
pulling the fucking Earther experience multiplier. I'm still mad about that grand design. This is a complete and total game design clusterfuck. And I was just
Okay.
about to talk about how giving chess back was a mistake because you can't bow to the pressure of complaining players when you're trying to do dev level work and keep
Okay.
balance in a game. And now here I am, ready to type up an angry forum post about nerfed fucking Earthers.
Okay. You know what? Calm down.
It's
Making
so
any
unfair.
I'm not talking about like dev level stuff. You know I'm talking about characterization and emotion
I
and plot
am,
stuff.
and I think that even from a characterization and emotion and plot stuff level, if I was some poor fucking jackass dropped onto a death world filled with magic and Krellers, and I was struggling to survive and found out that the multiplier I was getting had just been nerfed, while
But there's
I'm
a thing.
fucking just doing everything I can to scrape by after being dragged from my home by a magical doom portal, I would be fucking pissed.
Here's the other part that you keep forgetting. The part where the Grand Design decided it's going to find a way to send them all home.
Yeah, if any of them were fucking left after that nerf.
Oh God. But it is what it is. Anyway, the point being it's removed miracle level ups as an option and kneecapped the gods a little bit in their like creepy way they're doing stuff. And it before it did that, it used its own ability to give Sarient Lambs the ability condition rule breakers thoughts.
It didn't give that to Sarient Lambs. It
Sorry,
gave that to
a new class it created, Sarient Friend
yeah,
class.
which yeah,
Yes,
they
it
gave
gave
it
it
to
to
Nanette,
Nanette.
which it
Yeah,
is so deeply troubling to me on the subject of just fairness that Sarians apparently are going to get a Sarient friend class, which means there's going to be people who can help them get over the hump, and the poor fucking uh, apes living over in um,
and
Valeros just have to fucking struggle.
the what is it on the many other species? But I was gonna say this: the rule breaker thought doesn't like not apply to it. It doesn't apply just to one thing. Once you have the skill, it does a condition. Excuse me, it doesn't go away.
Yeah. And it's unclear what all it will influence. Like, it could be she can straight up no-sell stuff like Neravia, which was something that was, like, presented as an incredibly powerful, she's locked you in and you can't get out of it type situation unless you were specifically a rule breaker. Or it could just be that they are allowed to know and remember things they shouldn't, but still interact with a lot of skills the same way. It's going to be curious to figure out what the details are.
I think. Oh, and I found the line. So essentially, it's made it so that no one could force a level up without the right prerequisites. And that the other exceptions still existed. So probably they could still level up while awake. The only reason I mention it is because the Pavilion of Secrets was revealed to be part of to also have the ability to like give rule breakers thoughts, which is the whole thing. I don't even know what the fuck it was. Um, okay, we talked almost entirely about this one
Okay,
chapter, but
yeah, this one chapter is a big deal one. The grand design is what I like to call the deep lore. And like I said, I'm all about getting kitchen sinked on deep lore like this. I love when you have this long, consistent build up and you have all of this stuff start popping off and all these reveals get dropped into your lap, and then you walk away somehow with more questions than answers. It's a difficult balance to draw, but I think Pirate nailed this chapter and GDI as a character perfectly.
I think so as well, and I really appreciated the effort put in. And the connection to the winter solstice is now, along with what happens in the next couple of chapters with Aaron providing weapons to people, the arrival of Fleethoof Perorn, the the fact that the horns have now been established to be within the crossroads, and the crossroads possibly lead to inn, and then Shaestrel makes a move where one of the Fae is agreed, who was apparently whose parents were apparently from Inworld, makes the choice to like go and help the
Yeah,
horns.
was either a fawn or a satyr. Uh, there's so much interesting to talk about with that too. That said, before we just like go too deep into a crazy overview on just everything that happened there, it might be best that we just call this one here as our GDI episode and maybe talk about the confluence of events at the inn itself for a
Well,
next one. Yeah.
That's literally what I was gonna talk about. We have enough time to talk about the confluence, and then we can get into like the specifics on the next episode if we want.
Gotcha. It felt like we were in a world where we are gonna gloss over a lot of stuff, and I don't
No,
get to talk about Rabbit Eater for 30 minutes. And I'm gonna
listen to
talk
me.
about Rabbit Eater for 30 minutes.
listen to me. We can talk about the other stuff, but the grand design and Aaron and Lescore are the big thing. Most of Aaron and Lescore, I'm sure people have read. It's just a litany of her allies showing up and things. The most important thing that presages the Solstice arrival, the three biggest events that Pirate has put together. One is the coming fight between Casigna and whatever she has planned, and whoever she's going to summon up or whatever to attack the inn and the people at the inn. The somehow Pirate has been subtly but steadily growing this kind of conflict in the on the oceans near Wistrom Academy between Tome's fleet, the colonizers from Terandria, the pirates, and possibly the Goblin Island. Like Rabbit Eater mentioned, glowing people. So is there there might be a Goblin Island, and then everything that's happening in with the horns in the crossroads. There's a possibility that might enter. So those were the three big events that we were left with just before the beginning of the solstice. Because literally the last line of the last chapter is, and then the solstice began.
Yeah, there is all of these pieces in motion. I like to think of it as a incredibly slow motion boating accident involving several yachts, numerous dinghies, a poorly timed hurricane, and one terribly unfortunate squid. And it's just watching all of it come together and explode is so exciting because all the pieces have been set up so well.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to see what will happen next because it feels like there is no like moment that's going to pause here. I hope Pirate can live through this, by the way, mentally and physically, because the end of Volume 8 nearly killed them. According to all the stuff that they've written about it, there's just so much here that needs to like be put together. Here's what I am going to talk about before we wrap up this episode. All the things I hope do not happen, but I know will happen. Please, Kelt, do not get wrapped up in this. Please, Prophet, do not kill Bone Daddy. Please,
Helps
please,
falling.
please, please, please. Okay, fine. I'll take Kelt falling, but please don't kill Bull. Can he just be revived? Because
I
you
don't
know
know. I
the
eh, so there is so much tragedy that I feel is on the horizon, and I think in really specific, uncompromising, there is no way for me to get around this terms. I think that fucking Celt and oh my god, I just you called him Bone Daddy, and now all I can think of is the name fucking Bone Daddy, motherfucker. What is his
King
fucking King
Fetohep.
Fetohep? Fucking thank you.
Yes.
Fuck, fucking fuck. King Fetohep has been speaking in Semaphore ever since the moment we found out that Celt's undead were no longer working. That man
Yeah.
exclusively uses death flags as his primary means of talking to the world. Like,
But
Celt
Pirate doesn't like.
itself may well survive even, but I do not see Fetohep staying as a character, even if he makes it to the end of this volume. I don't think he makes it a volume past.
I'm just saying that like Pirate doesn't like being predictable, and Fetohep as a mortal would be. How do I say this in the nicest possible way? It's a it's Pirate's pattern to make things worse before they're better, and the best way to make it worse for Kelt is to make Fetohep a mortal, because not immortal, a mortal.
Immortal, I got you, I got you.
Yeah, and then once he's a mortal, kill him in the most like
Mm,
epic fashion possible.
I don't know.
That I could take. That I could take. I
Pirate
would not
has
be
been pulling punches, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's just Pirate is not interested in randomly killing off characters for shock value.
right.
It's got to
Exactly.
have a purpose. It's got to have a meaning. Even
So
poor
what's the
Grunker, who
purpose
we were
here?
just talking about. Okay, narratively speaking, I think that it. Now, don't get me wrong. I could be entirely wrong here, and my older theory that everybody was going to die, that Aaron would never get revived, and that we would jump forward 10 years to Mersha as a young adult, and we find out this is actually Mersha's story. Everyone at the end could still die. It could be an absolute loss there, but I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. but
I
there still
wish it
needs to
would.
be losses. There still needs to be this, the victory I feel needs to be Pyrrhic here. And the best way to have a Pyrrhic victory where it feels genuinely like something was lost without it becoming hopeless is Celt. Celt is the extraneous, superfluous spot, the powerful ally, the friend
But
that
it's
Aaron
not.
can confide in, and I think that we need to establish Prophet. We need to establish the relationship of him and the gods. We need to establish him as a threat. I think Celt needs to job.
I I can see all of that, but that's what makes me like not trust it. Okay, real talk. Emotions aside, as a narrative point, having the prophet and his little set of assholes push into Kelt. Kelt has too many magical stuff things, and even as reduced as it is, Fedorhep will know how to like murder them all. That's I'm not concerned about the
Remember,
prophet.
faith is kind of an outside context thing, and
Hang on, let me finish. It would be a Pyrrhic victory. That's literally how I think he ends up dying. He wipes out most of them in some kind of defensive motion, and then the prophet is the only survivor. He levels up, kills him. Like that's how I see it happening. It's not that
no,
impossible to see it happening.
I think because one of the problems, well, not problems, let me say, one of the features of Prophet and his, lackeys has been whenever we've met them, they've actually been pretty cool. A group of them literally swept in and started freeing slaves and beating the shit out of Rochelle.
Yeah,
It is difficult to make a more positive first impression to me than murdering the slavers, right? And
I'm just
I
gonna.
think that they're going to be more complex and interesting characters than a bunch of people who can just be killed off out of hand because, Fedo Hep needs to go out like a badass.
But that's what I'm trying to say. They haven't been given a chance. We haven't been given a chance to meet or speak to or understand the prophet or his followers. Not really. They're making a clear mistake. There is motivation behind it, but Pirate hasn't built up that emotional connection to make it a tragedy yet. That's why I'm saying that maybe like Pirate's not going to do that.
I don't know. I mean, that's why I was saying it might happen next volume, but I think Celt is on a time limit. And yes, I get it. That's what looks obvious, so clearly it what won't happen. Give me a moment to hit my vape really hard so I can simulate the sound of you huffing your copium over there.
I'm not huffing a copy. I was trying to say like emotions off that narratively speaking killing Kel during the solstice it doesn't seem like Pirate's plan if only because they're focusing on these specific events
Yeah,
and the backdrop for this that's my narrative reason for doing it that's my logical reasoning for not happening. I didn't say it wasn't going to happen. I didn't say like it's the same with Terriarch dying. I knew it was going to happen. I still know Fenhop's going to die. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of when and how. I'm just like not happy about it, and I don't want it to happen personally on a personal level. And outside of that, the Solstice itself, Pirates did a really good job of like keeping their cards close more than usual.
yeah.
And
Uh,
in normal chapter, like in normal end runs, I've been able to sort of suss out what the hell is happening. Except for the end of volume 6, which was a complete surprise. But that felt more like just Pirate was trying to do something with that.
I mean, the thing about the end of Volume 6 is I think it was really good at giving us this fake out, oh my god, Torrin has snapped, the inn is destroyed, everything is in the ashes, and I genuinely thought Torrin was going to kill Aaron. And when he didn't, that sense of false security was not only a great character moment for both of them, but it made it so that I just kind of didn't see Volume 7 coming at all. Just completely fucking blindsided me. It was the 1-2 like fucking float like a butterfly, sting like a writer, murdering one of my favorite characters.
I think I didn't like get that Aaron would die until the party started, and I realized that this doesn't seem like the end. It can't be the end, and the structure of it doesn't make sense. This doesn't feel like the end. Ryoka never succeeds,
I mean,
so like that's when I figured it out. And I thought that if I was like connected enough, and I usually when I'm connected enough to the story, I can suss out the very at least a big point of the very end. Volume 9, it's just like with Volume 6. I have no fucking idea. I have no idea what's coming, and I guess it makes me very nervous. Not that lots of people will die or anything. It just makes me nervous because that's when Pirate gets creative.
yeah, I think Pirate's going to pull out literally all of the stops for this one. And
Mm,
dear God, I'm gonna make this prediction again, and it might even be true, but for Volume 10, it's gotta be fucking a breather towards the end. I don't know if Pirate can keep escalating from here, but Pirate's probably going to introduce something from this, and I'm gonna look at it and go, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. Of course it's gonna escalate from here.
I don't know where Pirate is taking this because it feels okay. So a lot of people talk about this how we gotta have a whole episode about like what people consider plot lines and what's not a plot line and what needs to be completed to have a satisfying ending and what doesn't need to be completed. Like there's a lot of stuff that like the unfinished plot lines or arcs or whatever on the Wandering Inn server has so many things that have like why would we care? These are not plot lines. They're just events that have yet to be concluded. Like as Koresh's Plan of Doom, the Null's New Lands. That's not really a arc. It's just an event that occurred, and it might be places that people go. Like that's just okay. Anyway, we'll get into it on another episode. But I think that's where I am for pre-solstice. If you want to talk about it, I'm very trepidatious.
Uh,
I have no trust in Pirate. I have no trust in anyone, and I'm afraid.
there is a major third like angle because there's three angles coming into the solstice. Uh,
Okay.
Horns and whatever the fuck is going on in there, but I think that's more setting them up for a heroic arrival at like a bold moment. And I'm gonna make a prediction here. I think it's gonna look like their new party member is gonna sacrifice herself in some grand moment and then wind up living, and then it's just gonna be a funny, awkward sitcom of them having to live with this random fucking satyr. I think it's gonna be great. Uh,
I hate that idea.
I think it's very fucking funny.
Do you know what?
I would love to see the legs kicked out of the fucking grand, pretentious feyness of it all. I really do love when the fucking universe pranks them back.
Well, here's why I hate the idea because there's no world in which the satyr like is how do I say this? It's the sacrifice. It's meant to be a sacrifice,
I know. That's
and
why
the
it's funny.
no, I don't think it's funny. I think it's like sad. This is something that someone has agreed to do. This is why they're in world to
Yep, she's sacrificed her place amongst her adopted people. She has returned to the land of her parents'
no.
home so that she can sacrifice herself in order to defeat the great and powerful enemy. She has
I
steeped herself into this grand moment, and I just think it would be really a nice undercutting of how fucking annoying the Fae can come across sometimes with how grandiose and better than you they are. If she wound up surviving and having to live with this and live with the horns and live in this new world and not just fuck off and die.
I
I think it leads to more interesting long term character drama, great comedic moments, and I think it's a nice subversion.
I hope not, because I think Pirate can do better than that. I think I'm not gonna say what I think will happen. I shouldn't say it.
Oh
I
no,
don't
no,
want
you're
to.
you're gonna let me make the predictions so that you
Well,
can
you're the one.
pretend that whatever happens, you were right. I got you.
No, fuck you, Dragonus. No. The reason I don't want to make the prediction is because now that I think about it, it's like a wish more than a prediction on that one. And that's not really the one. Here, okay, I'll make you a second prediction, something else
Hmm.
that doesn't have to do with the horns, because that one I'm keeping to myself. Um, when it comes to oh, you're not gonna like me after this. When it comes to the rabbit eater stuff, I think most of the ivory whatever will be dead. It'll be
Tragically.
Seraphel, and maybe rabbit eater survives unscathed, and they end up on the Goblin Isle, and it will be what it will be after that.
Yeah, no, I think that I don't know how many of like the other Israeli people are going to survive.
Yep,
But I think what's going to happen is in the midst of all of this, Rabbit Eater is going to wind up getting picked up by Grey Death, and in order to save Seraphel's life, he's taking her with him. It could be because
yep.
everyone else is dead. It could be because individually their ship is sinking. There's a lot of stuff I just don't fucking know how it's going to land out. But I think Seraphel is absolutely going with him to the island or wherever else he goes. There's a world where the island plot line gets held off on for now, and instead Rabbit winds up chilling with the Blood Tier pirates for a bit, just because they like him and they seem to have liked the Knights of Solstice in general. They probably would be like, "Hey, you surrender." I don't know. Like they're so fucking weird and erratic, and it's hard to tell what they're gonna fucking do. It's what I like about them as characters. But I absolutely see a world, especially if they find out he's a goblin, where they fucking laugh, think it's the funniest thing in the world, and offer him a pass. And he
I
demands to take Seraphel with him.
I would agree, but here's the thing. The way pirates set up the blood tiers and what they're doing, they clearly got a ghost visit, and they all have some kind of skill, and they're doing something. And this
It's such a
convinced
juicy mystery. I want to
it.
know.
I hope we get to know sooner rather than later. But that's one prediction, and my second prediction is what's the Tyrion's kid? Um, what's his name? Not Heth.
Heathen?
Is it Heth? Is it Heth?
No,
What?
Samuel's the younger one. Heathen's the one who's got the eyes, and
Yes.
potentially a mysterious connection to the surviving ents deep within the ocean.
Okay, that not what I was thinking, but I was thinking that Hethan's going to um be involved somehow in helping them find whatever forest that he saw behind the veil that was clearly hiding something.
Yeah,
Um,
he has some connection to the ancient lands and forests of his people, and I think it's going to have to do with the Ents.
I don't know what it'll have the connection to, but I'm just telling you, I think whatever happens is going to involve. There's going to be one adventure with the kids. That's my prediction.
Yeah,
One
it,
adventure with the kids.
it's either that or he is going to fucking do something where, oops, it turns out that there's a bunch of unicorns, and then kick Talavitrian completely off of his ass. That
I
fucking bitter, angry, jaded unicorn is going to have something mystical in there that speaks to him in his soul, and then, god damn it, he's got to follow that fucking Gias that he made on himself.
Yep. The reason I say this is because Nanette and the kids are all in Magnolia's
One
house.
place.
Yeah, and there's no supervision, and it's like they are afraid. Like Mersha's, I know people get pissed off at Mersha and why she doesn't why she's being so bratty and not going back. But we all know why.
Yeah,
Like we don't like talking about it, but we all know why. She has no one.
yeah, I get it. And I actually like Mersha a lot of the time as a character, even if, like, as a Mersha enjoyer, I'm reaching a point where I'm starting to get a little tired of her. Uh, But I just don't know if I have it in me for this fucking big grand plot to also have space for the fucking junior explorers to come through.
I don't know if it would. I think it will. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it'll be Hethan who will go on the whatever it is, probably leading the kids or so. I just think that there will be something there, and there has to be like maybe the kids end up in a really dangerous spot, or maybe they find someplace secret. Whatever it happens, they're gonna get there, and I hope that it goes well. And the third prediction, the only prediction that matters, Aaron is going to totally level up to 50.
Maybe.
I hope so. Because that's it. That's all my predictions. You got anything else?
Just a desire to spend 30 minutes talking about Rabbit Eater and his character arc, but that can be for another time.
Oh god. No predictions other than the whole kick in the teeth fate thing for the horns?
Uh, I mean, there's absolutely going to be an attempt to kidnap Pisces, and my greatest fear is that it's going to work.
I that's already happened. Oh my god. I this is one of those funny things that I always like mentioning. Do you realize that Pisces is their princess?
Yes.
Yeah. Like literally Pisces is the princess. Christopher technically has a gender, but that's only because he picked one. Um and because it's Kilbikitch's gender. Christopher could change genders anytime. So if all the horns are female and he's the princess, I'm just saying, he gets kidnapped a lot and ends up being saved by other people who are all women. He's the princess. He is Princess Peach. I'm all for it, but Princess Peach, save yourself at some point. So we could probably wrap this episode up and hope, and you guys could all out there, those few listeners we have, or many listeners, I don't know, you can mock me after the solstice event happens and see what I got right and wrong. We gotta do like a bingo card for the solstice, though.
A bingo card.
We do.
Let's see if we can get one put together. We'll have to poke some other people we know about it.
Okay,
Then,
Kylera, we gotta get a bingo card. We gotta do it.
yeah, let's. Well, we'll talk about it once we're done with the recording. But I am ready to, I think, wrap up. How about you?
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back in a week, 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long it'll take us to
When we're
absorb the.
back, we'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be
when
back.
we're back.
All right.
Say
Bye,
goodnight,
everybody.
Oshi.
Bye. Good night. You've been listening to No Killing Goblins. The music on No Killing Goblins was composed by System Glitch. They can be found at youtube.com/systemglitch. You can get in touch with us via our Twitter at NoKillingGoblin or email us at nokillinggoblins with an S at gmail.com.